a sense. Feel it in my skeleton. I know I'm intense, I'll cut the suspense. I'm here to take down everyone. I'm here to take down everyone. I'm here to rumble. I've got danger in my favor, like a razor. I'm here to rumble. Diamond breaker, it's my nature. Get ready for thunder, 'cause I'm here to rumble. I'm here to rumble. I'm here to rumble. Yeah, I'm here to rumble. I'm here to rumble now. I'm here to rumble. Listen to me now, listen to me now. It's coming down to the two of us. Let me show you how. Listen to me now. It's coming down to the two of us. Listen to me now. Listen to me now. It's coming down to the two of us. Let me show you how. Listen to me now. It's coming down to the two of us. I'm here. I'm here to rumble. I've got danger in my favor, like a razor. I'm here to rumble. Diamond breaker, it's my nature. Get ready for thunder. I'm here to rumble. I've got danger in my favor, like a razor. I'm here to rumble. Diamond breaker, it's my nature. Get ready for thunder. I'm here to rumble.
And welcome once again to Off the Glass, the Oak Ridge High School Basketball Coaches Show. Joining me, as you can see on the screen there, is Coach Paige Taylor, head coach of the Lady Wildcats. Coach, it's been, I guess, maybe 3 weeks since we did a show.
Yeah.
People down here at Channel 12 were very happy to run our first show several times. And, last Wednesday I think the boys were playing, but kind of been a weird time as we talked on our first show about the scheduling, and last time we were talking, you had rescheduled a Christmas tournament, and you were getting ready to go for that. You had some games scheduled, a makeup game, I think, with Campbell County on the 22nd or something like that, but
Yeah.
all that got pushed aside.
Everything changed. We were scheduled to play at Farragut against Farragut and Maryville, and then Campbell County, and there was one other game. It's just a jumbled mess to me right now. And then after Christmas, Greenville was canceled, and we ended up getting in the tournament at Maryville, and ended up all of those games got canceled for us. So it was nice to be back on the court last night.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, every year it's kind of a different. I look at it as like you got 3 different seasons basically.
Right.
You got the pre-Christmas, you got the Christmas tournaments, and then you have, well, actually 4 maybe if you look at it that way. Then the tournaments at the end. It's almost like you probably had to start over again.
Yeah, and honestly, we kind of did. We put in some new things and worked on them, and started working on some things last night in the game. So it's an odd year, even from a coaching standpoint, but I know especially from a player standpoint. But historically, our teams that we've coached here at the high school, we've had, we go into Christmas and we've played some really tough competition before and after Christmas. Which I feel has really prepared us for our postseason, when we get there. And, we didn't have that at all this year. And luckily we got a game in with Stone before, everything else got kind of canceled. But I don't really know what to expect. We talked last night a lot about, the chemistry and the gel, because those tournaments at Christmas for our teams here have always started our gelling point. The chemistry starts clicking, and so not having that, it's a kind of a new thing for us. We got to figure out what we're doing.
Let me ask you something. This is just something I don't know the answer to, honestly. Most of the questions I ask I know the answer to, but I don't know this one. Was there a restriction put on by the schools, like you couldn't go out of state or sleep in a hotel kind of restrictions?
Right. So back when we were in quarantine in the spring, that's when you plan those tournaments, whether it's Phoenix or Myrtle Beach, where we've gone. We were actually looking at going out of state, and at that time it was all up in the air, and I contacted the school, and I was told it would probably be best not to plan travel out of state at that point, because you have to pay, you have to put down deposits, and it's not just
Right.
it's a process. You've got to fundraise, and so we planned to stay in state, and then eventually the out of state travel for everything got canceled, really. And then when we were going to Greenville, we typically will drive back and forth a couple nights, but we stay a couple nights up there too. But we were told when Greenville was still happening, the plan was we were not going to stay in a hotel. We were going to have to drive back and forth.
Oh, so that wouldn't have been really fun. I know you
Yeah.
typically have done that the first night, I
The
believe.
first
You've
night,
gone up
yes.
there and then come back, because
Yeah.
usually it's like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're playing that first game. It's
Yeah.
usually an earlier ball game. But
Yeah.
let's go back to the Stone Memorial ball game. I don't remember if we talked about that or not.
I don't think so.
That was against perhaps one of the best teams you might face all season.
It was.
In the
It
regular
was.
season for sure. I mean, they had the girl inside 6'2" or whatever going to Belmont, I believe. Yeah, so quite a talent, a really, really good basketball team. And as you said, at least you got a chance to play them.
Right.
And thinking back to that ball game, obviously you wish you had games in between. Did you see any improvement in last night's game against Central from that game?
It's kind of two totally different teams, so it's hard to measure. I feel like I saw improvement. I think I was just anticipating last night us being very tired, out of shape, and really struggling to play together some, just because we'd had 2 practices since or 3 practices since we played Stone Memorial, before we played last night. And so when you miss 2 to 3 weeks, you don't really know what to expect. When I saw us last night, I thought, well, maybe the break was good for us. Maybe they're hungry again. They've seen what it's like with it, without it, and they want it. And so, the Stone game, and that's one of the reasons, like the Greenville tournament, and you play teams from what could be our sectional. Stone could be a state tournament team. Certainly, a very, very good basketball team. So it's a measuring stick for you. And that time of the year at Christmas, that's why we play who we play, because we want to see where we're at and where we've got to go from there. And so that's why to me that game was important, because we saw where we were. We got the best of Stone that night. They shot the lights out of it, and because of that game, we've made some changes in some things that we're going to do to prepare for teams like that. And I feel like it definitely helped us. And last night, I think we were a little bit different basketball team.
Last night's game was at Central. Central, very young team. I think they had 1, maybe 2 seniors total on the team, and a lot of freshmen out there. And
Yeah.
I thought he was very patient, honestly. I was watching him a little bit, and I thought, he's being very patient. Yeah, I guess you kind of have to be with a young team.
He does a great job. Coach Collins does a great job with his team. I mean, it's unfortunate he graduated, a couple of talented, or I know one, the post player, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I never can
tall.
remember her name. Yes,
Yeah.
she went to play soccer in college. Great athlete, and unfortunately he lost a guard that transferred off of this team that would have obviously made a difference for him. But to me, I mean, he's building that program, and he's doing a solid job with those girls.
Kamari Mitchell-Steen had a really good game last night. She had a lot of steals, and I haven't looked at your stats, but I know she's way up there in those. I mean, a lot of her offenses come off of, and that's the way it's been her whole career, honestly, is, she gets a lot of her offense. She's so good at finishing when she does it. And one thing you said to me last night, and you basically said it again, you were surprised, really, how well they actually looked.
I was, yeah. I mean, I was shocked Sunday in practice, honestly. I told Lauren and Christina, my 2 assistant coaches, I said, this is, I'm afraid I'm going to have to be really patient today. That was my mindset going into Sunday's practice. But they shocked me then, and I said this last night, there's a difference, though, in being conditioned for practice and then being conditioned for a game. The game speed, the game pace, and it's and so I was concerned about the number of minutes we would play. I mean, only dressing 8, I mean, there's not a lot of room for breaks there.
Right.
So, but they came out, they played hard, and honestly, I think that might be the first team that I've coached that's actually had a good game at Central. We typically, and I told them before the game, I think Kamari said, yeah, we were down at halftime last year, I think.
So she remembered that. Actually.
Yeah. And so, I felt good about the way we played.
I was thinking of something you said a minute ago, too, about you typically like to play the games. You had scheduled a game with Maryville that had to be postponed, and Maryville is obviously a team that put you out last year, so
Right.
really they returned a good portion of that team, if not about all of them.
Right.
And it's unfortunate you didn't get a chance to play them, but I also, I guess it's Bearden has a really good team, and I noticed last night they were beaten
Right.
by Alcoa, a team that you beat. I don't know if maybe Bearden had some players out. I
Yeah.
don't know the story on that, but that was kind of surprising to me.
I was surprised by that score. When I watched film on Alcoa preparing for that game, I texted Coach Trent and watching film, and I said, this might be a good matchup for us. They played a lot like us. They tried to play fast, and I was actually shocked with how well we played against Alcoa, just by watching film, and because I watched their film on Granger, and when I saw that score, one of my players' parents texted me the score after the game of the Bearden score, and I was shocked by it just because of the mismatch size-wise.
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah,
Bearden is...
and knowing that Alcoa, like us, wants to play fast, and Bearden plays that half-court matchup zone,
Right.
And tries to slow things down, and so I wouldn't think that would be the score of a half-court game, and maybe it wasn't the half-court game, I don't know, but that's what I would anticipate.
Mark Hayes, who helps me on the radio, said something funny last night. He said, it has been so long. He was looking at the stat sheet, and he said, didn't Kamari graduate? It's been so long since I've seen this basketball team. I thought maybe some of these players had graduated.
Yeah.
How was that practice Sunday? I mean, obviously you were pleased with them, but
Right.
And they came in focused and...
Yeah, we've got a really, and I've said this a ton of times, we've got veteran players, but we've got a lot of young players, and so our practices are, can always be like this, and we know that because they're learning. But I felt like they were focused, and I felt like, going in, I said, so here's the deal. We got practice today, tomorrow. We play Tuesday, Thursday, Friday this week. Next week we have 4 games. And we've got JV games, coming up. So it's everybody playing, and we've got to get prepared for that. And I think they were excited to be in the gym, honestly. I wasn't there. Well, I was in my office, and when the coaches opened the door for them to come in, and they kind of all just like ran at each other, just excited to see each other. So,
Right.
That says something, too.
I want to ask you about the leadership of this team. I know you would think somebody like Hope would be a leader on the team. I'll ask you who the leaders are, but Kamari doesn't seem like somebody who talks a lot. Does she talk more? I mean, on the floor, does she?
Not on the floor as much as I want Kamari to talk on the floor.
Okay.
That's where, and she and I've talked about that. There's growth to be, room for growth there. Kamari sets the tone with her energy and her effort. And even her attitude, the drive, the determination to play hard. Our girls feed off of Kamari and her energy. She's like defensively. When she's getting steals, what does that do? I ask her all the time, what does that do for us? It makes the game faster, which is to our advantage. And when we don't have that, when we don't get those things from Kamari, the whole pace of our game changes, and it's a totally different style, and it's not a good style for us to be, a slow down team.
So is she the leader of the team, or is
she and Hope are very close, and she is a character. She is very funny. She likes to joke around a lot. She laughs a lot. She kind of keeps that energy part going too, and Hope kind of balances her out. Hope is more quiet. And I'm talking about off the court mainly, but even in practice, though, some Kamari, gets going. But Hope is a more quiet, but Hope goes hard all the time. Hope has a positive attitude. you know, you know what, she's consistent in her effort. And we put in some things that what we ran last night defensively. Hope picked up on that. I saw that last night in the game, and she actually was verbally, you know, talking and making things happen for the girls defensively, which is huge for us. It's what we need from her.
Coach, I don't want to end this year prematurely, but I was thinking about this last night. I was driving home. You're going to graduate those two girls we just talked about, but who's going to step up next year? I mean, we're not even a third of the way through this season, but I was just thinking about that. Who has stepped up in the younger class already this year that you have seen, not only on the floor, but as leaders, perhaps potential leaders?
You know, it's really hard to say because this is a very odd year.
Yeah, you don't see them you haven't seen them much.
You don't see them much. You know, I think Gracie has the ability to have a solid presence on the court, and she has the ability. She knows basketball. And she's a good fundamental player. She has great hands. She can score. Gracie's just got to believe in Gracie, you know, and have the confidence. And I think sometimes she, you know, she plays a little bit timid, or, you know, I don't really know how to explain. She could potentially be there. Gracie is still maturing, you know. And she needs to learn to understand the mature leadership role, you know, what that means, setting the tone, setting the example, and not just, you know, and all of the young girls, not just being one of them, but separating yourself so that they follow and not being the follower.
Well, one thing I've noticed about her, she obviously has a little bit more confidence in her knees now than she had. I mean, her freshman year, I remember, you know, Phoenix, it seemed like, you know, she was just any slight little thing was.
Well, unfortunately, in Phoenix, she had a torn ACL, and we didn't know it.
Wow, no
you
wonder.
know, I mean, I no way of knowing when she tore it. But one of our first days of practice, her freshman year, we were practicing at Norwood because they were redoing the B gym floor, so we only had one gym, and she fell there, and I'm pretty sure that's when it happened. So she played. You know,
so
unfortunately, I remember calling her. Tara was our trainer there. I remember calling her and saying, "I don't know what's wrong with her, but I want her to go to the doctor, and she's either going to get, you know, be told she can't play, she's hurt, she can't play, or there's nothing wrong with you. Like I got to get an answer because there's too much." And sure enough, she had a torn ACL.
Wow.
So
And that was a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
Coach, let's see. Tomorrow you've got a makeup ball game with Campbell County. Traditionally, Campbell County, since you've been here, has been tough. I mean, those first few years, I think we split with them almost every year.
Yes.
Co-championships a couple times.
The last 2 years, I believe we've had a co-championship.
Yeah, so, I mean, traditionally, they've been tough. Of course, I'm going to talk about the restrictions that are in place now at ball games, which, you know, we'll talk about that in a moment. But what about this Campbell County team that we're going to see tomorrow?
You know, someone just asked me about them on the phone before I came in here. I honestly don't know enough about them yet. I haven't seen enough about them. I do know that they lost a core of their team. You know, when you lose, you have 2 tough years. You lose Bo Shears and you know, Haley Comer and those girls, and then Madison Brady, and you're rebuilding. I know they can shoot the basketball. Got a couple good shooters. So like I said last night, they're going to play extremely hard. Oak Ridge gets everybody's best game. That's what I feel that way, and I'm not saying that arrogantly. That's the honest truth.
It's true.
And Campbell County is a tough place to play, you know, and it's a great atmosphere, and I have no doubt that it will be a battle for us.
Nikki Anasicki, I believe, is the new head coach of the Anderson County Lady Mavericks. Took over for Coach Ellis, who'd been there forever.
Years,
He'd been there a long, long time. You play them on Friday, get a chance to come back home Friday night against them. And obviously, I'm not going to ask you specifically about them. But for the most part, you've got district games to close it out. I think you've got Cleveland, I guess, next Saturday. I think you've got Fulton down the stretch. And is the Catholic game just a boys' game? Or
No, it's boys and girls.
Boys and girls. So really, are those am I forgetting somebody? Are those the only non-district games that you have left?
I believe so. We play Cleveland twice, home and away.
Right.
And then we have the one Fulton game, the one Catholic game. I believe that is it.
You mentioned the 4 games next week. That includes makeup games too.
It does. And we also have an additional JV game. So, we're playing all days except Wednesday next week. Our JV will play on Monday, I believe, against Catholic. Tuesday, we are at home against Powell. Thursday, it's girls only. We're hosting Clinton. That's our makeup game. Friday is Central at home. We'll play Central again, quick turnaround, and then we go to Cleveland on Saturday. So we play Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Coaches would rather be on the practice floor, I believe, but players would rather be playing ball games.
This time of the year, though, for our team, we need to play. This team needs to play. We have to start getting that chemistry down, and I'm at this point, and you call me crazy, and coaches may call me crazy, but I like that we're playing 3 games this week and 4 games next week. Just to get some games in and play. We're way behind as far as number of games that we've played. We were talking about that last night. 2 years ago, when Jada and Shatara were seniors, we played, 8 games in 11 days or something like that, going to Phoenix and coming back home and going to Greenville, and that's a lot, and big games, close games, and 1-2 championships, and then this team didn't play that. So we need to play some basketball games.
Yeah, the guy that's been writing a little bit for the Oak Ridger, he texted me today and he said, "Is that record right? Are they only 5-1?" I said, "I believe they might be 6-1 now, but 2 district games." And he said, "Yeah, that's right." Because that's not as bad as Central. Central's boys had not played since Thanksgiving.
Right.
So that's and their girls had played a couple more games than that. But it's just the way it is.
It is.
Just have to.
And that's the unfortunate thing. Some of these teams that are playing aren't playing with their entire team. Like, we were talking to Coach Collins last night before the game, and he still was missing a player. He hasn't played 1 game yet all season with his entire team there.
Wow.
And I think that's the case, for a lot of people, and they're missing practice, and that's why I think right now playing is actually good for our team, just to have everybody on the court, because we have had in practice we've missed players pretty much all season as well.
You mentioned Jada Gwynn a few minutes ago, and I wanted to talk about some of the girls that are still playing college ball, and maybe 4 playing right now. Maybe more.
I think more than that.
Oh.
Yeah, because we had.
I was thinking Jamie Golden, Jada, Destiny,
Micaiah, Bree, and Desiree.
Right. So you've got quite a few.
Yeah. I hope I haven't missed another one.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I know Micaiah had a really good game the other night.
She did. We were talking about her today in practice, and Micaiah, the greatest gift that Micaiah has is her effort and her work. I mean, she was a worker. When we
just like her mom.
She was a worker. I said today, when I think of Micaiah, I think about a charge that she took right in front of our bench against Bradley in the semifinal game of the state tournament her sophomore year. Mm-hmm. She was always willing to take that sacrifice. Always. And I think. And as a player, and I've been there as a player, and you play, and you're ready to go on to the next level, and it's an in between thing. I think you can kind of get complacent, and then unfortunately she had to transfer, didn't get to play a lot her freshman year, and then had to transfer and sit out a year. And she's hungry. To me, she's hungry again. The old Micaiah's back. Mm-hmm. That grit, that determination, that fighter. Micaiah was a player that, for us, always did the little things. When she was on, she was on. And she was like a little bully. She was strong, and she could dominate. And I'm super proud to see her back after basically missing 2 years, and mentally and emotionally going through some things too with transferring and sitting out. And I love getting on Twitter and seeing all the things she's doing.
I miss seeing her family at the gym. When the Dowdells are in the gym, you know it.
Right.
That corner was pretty much the.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of miss him. Coach, are you more competitive as a coach or a player when you play?
It's different. It's completely different. As a coach, it's hard because I'm competitive, but I can't do anything about it.
Right.
You know, I have to give them everything I've got and trust that they're going to, you know, and I don't have control. You know, you don't have control over how anybody's going to play or do. And my mindset, you know, I tell these girls all the time, and I used to tell Jada all the time, you know, there's another level of intensity. There's another level of effort. And it's funny, she went to Tech the summer before freshman year, and she came back, and she told the players, she said, she's right. There's, you know, like, you got to listen to her, because there's truth to that. And I didn't know that as a high school player either. You know, you don't always know that. But as a player, I could do something about it.
Right.
You know, game was on the line, I wanted the ball. Like, you know, I told the girls, and I don't talk about myself because it's not about me, but I was, you know, my senior year, Bradley, high school was only 3 years for me. You know, we had junior high, and
Yeah, we're a little bit older. That's the way.
Yeah. And so, you know, White County had beaten us 2 years in a row to keep us from the state tournament. My senior year, I want to go to state tournament. And we're hosting Sub-State. It was Sub-State at that time. And, you know, 18 seconds left, game's tied. We got the ball. Coach calls a timeout, and he's looking around. I said, I want the ball. Give me the ball. You know, and that's who, you know, I knew I had confidence because I worked off the court. You know, when you work off the court, you got the confidence when you get in there, it's going to go in. And you got to believe it's going to go in. And we ended up going to state tournament and that year and getting beaten in the championship game by Shelbyville. But I was, it's just a totally different level of competition. Like, I want to put my fire in some of my girls sometime, you know.
Who wants the ball on this team? Kamari?
Kamari, I would say. Hope would take a shot. She doesn't lack that confidence at all. I don't think Samaj lacks the confidence. I just don't know. Samaj, I need fire, you know, lit there. Certainly capable, more than capable. But I would say, I mean, obviously, I think Kamari or Hope.
I remember you saying something to me, and we've only got about 3 more minutes here. I remember you telling me that something to the effect of Samaj doesn't really know how good she can be.
She has no idea.
Yeah, she has got a lot of talent.
She does.
What is it that's going to put her over the top there?
If I knew that, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
You know, and I've asked her, what do you need from me? What's it going to take? You know, and I believe she wants to. It's just she's got to see it for herself, you know, and it's something, again, it goes back to, I see it as a coach. I see it in her. She's talented, very talented. She has a super high basketball IQ. She sees things. She's very deceiving, offensively and defensively. She can shoot the three. She can get to the rim. She's very deceiving on defense. And when she wants to, buddy, she can play.
Coach, next week we won't have Samaj on the show, but I'd like for you to bring Kamari and Hope, if you don't mind. I think that would be interesting to see how they've matured, even in the interview process here, because, you know, a lot of growing takes place in those years. And
it does, and you know, I've seen a ton of growth in both of them. I got to spend a little bit of time with Hope this summer, just one-on-one, and from that moment that day that we spent together, I mean, she's just gone from here to here, you know, with me, and it's that's what you want to see. That.
Just your final comments before we close it out here.
I'm just, you know, excited to be able just to play basketball. I think this team has got a lot of upside to it. There's going to be a lot of exciting basketball games from these girls.
Coach, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Coach Paige Taylor, head coach of the Lady Wildcats. They play Campbell County tomorrow in Campbell County. 6 o'clock will be the tip-off time. If you can't make it, and I know I'll talk to Coach Green about the restrictions. I meant to talk to you about that, but I'll talk to him about that. If you can't make it, you can watch the stream. We stream the ball games on YouTube now, and we're even going to start doing the home games streaming on YouTube, and that's you can just look for Prep Radio. Coach Aaron Green is up next on Off the Glass. We'll be back with him in a moment.
Everything we do is in search of more go. If it can withstand 0 degrees, can it go negative 20? If it can run through 5 inches of water per hour, can it go to 6? We go. So it goes. So you can go. It's hard to stop a train.
Train, extreme conditions testing. It's hard to stop a train. Really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling.
Fox Insurance Group is a local agency. We've got a great staff. We're knowledgeable. The most rewarding thing about working in insurance is taking care of customers. When they come in, a lot of times they don't know what coverages they need. They're relying on us to give them the right coverage that's going to fit their needs, but also at a competitive price. Anybody can go to any agent or they can call any 1-800 number. But getting that right agent that's going to take care of them and be there in time of need, and that's what we're here to do.
We're always moving. Scratch that. We're always moving forward. But forward can sometimes look a little backwards. Or like circles. Or like nothing at all. But we never stop. We never stop. Because life never stops. It's hard to stop a train.
Life is made of moments. Moments to share. Moments that are special. And those that are everyday. How do we meet these moments for over 2 million people across 23 counties in East Tennessee? We will meet them not as just a group of hospitals, but as one community of care. Because this is about you, and it's about time. Covenant Health. For every moment.
Train, extreme conditions testing. It's hard to stop a train. Really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling.
Welcome back to Off the Glass. Aaron Green, head coach of the Wildcats, in his 11th season as the head coach of the Wildcats. Coach, I said something to Jeremy Miller and Jonathan Milloway last night, and it was coming off of the 2 games that we had lost at Alcoa to Greenville and to Webb, that and I said this exactly, that since Coach Green has been here, we have not lost 3 ball games in a row in the 11 years that he's been here. We've lost a couple, 3 times, 4 times maybe, but never 3 in a row. And Jonathan said, "Why didn't you tell me that?" And I said, maybe a little pressure to get you to perform. And I thought, last night they did perform against Central.
Yeah, they did. I thought we played hard. I was not aware of the 3 games in a row myself. That's an you're good, great at stats. I had no idea. I'm sure they appreciated you putting the pressure on them.
Yeah, I did it on purpose, to be honest with you.
But like me and most coaches, we really don't keep up with a lot of stuff. I would have thought we had lost 3 in a row before at some point. But yeah, last night, obviously coming off 2 losses, having to play a pretty good team on the road. We talked about it after the game. Central's really athletic. They got a really good guard in Moore, got good size. I thought they did a good job on Millway. It seemed like we may have struggled a little bit, but after watching tape, they did a good job guarding us. We hadn't shot it very well over the last 3 or 4 games. Well, the 3 games in Alcoa didn't shoot it well last night. And, what is the reason for that? Is that, having those 10 days off probably didn't help. And you have stretches during the season where you don't always shoot it great. It's just part of it. But you can still win games if you defend and rebound, and we did a good job of that last night. We held them to 29% shooting from the field, which is the best on the year to this point, and we out-rebounded them by 1, which are 2 of the biggest stats I look at each game. So, but offense, we got a lot of things we can clean up. Way too many turnovers. And you're going to turn the ball over. It's probably going to be rare you play a game where you don't have, a handful of turnovers. But, out of a timeout and a play call, we throw it away on a first pass to, they go down and shoot a layup that he missed to start the third quarter, I think it was, or fourth quarter. Then we turn it over the next possession, trying to make a, what I call a hero pass on play, just kind of a really low percentage pass. And those are the ones we can clean up, and I think will help us. And on top of that, I mentioned after the game, there's 3 or 4, 5 easy buckets that you miss that, it ends up being 10 or 12 points in the game that you should make. So there's some stuff we got to clean up, but I thought our effort was good. I thought we made some strides defensively, and I thought our press was one of the best it's been this year. I thought it was effective.
Hey, Dylan, if you would kind of roll the central highlights, and Coach, you can comment if you want, but I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to ask you some questions
Sure.
too. One thing about this game, you mentioned you had been off, and you missed 3 ball games. What was that like for you?
It was tough. I don't know if you know all the logistical stuff. We talked about it a little bit, but I had an iPad over there that was basically just a FaceTime live, and trying to make calls over there and during timeouts. And by the third game, it was there's certain things I could do or say. Maybe play calls coming out to start a quarter. A certain play we wanted to run. But I couldn't communicate with the players, so it's almost pointless. That was a part that was frustrating. So I could not communicate with them at all during the game. So that was probably the most frustrating part. And then when you combine, and I think it would be anybody, you take away the head coach off any team, there's going to be some. There's going to be a little bit of, I don't know if the word setback, but it's just not the same because that's the voice they hear. You're making all the decisions, and all of a sudden that changes. But I think the biggest part too is just having that on top of not practicing or doing anything for 10 straight days and just showing up and playing 3 games and 3 games against quality competition was probably the toughest part.
Yeah, those are really 3 really good teams, and it's funny because during one of these games, and I told Jeremy and Jonathan this last night, y'all are the most scouted team, I'm sure, in East Tennessee, especially in our district, because you were the only guys playing since about the midway through December. In fact, Derek Wallace, the head coach of Anderson County, was texting me during some of these games that he was watching, and I was thinking, this is not good because everybody is going to know your tendencies. And you told me something last night about Jonathan is just getting banged around inside, and the zone has been a problem, I think, for you guys offensively. What do you do to combat that?
Well, even actually they played man, but it looks like a zone just because they're sagged off, trying to contain, really keep us out of the paint. So it was actually man to man, but it kind of looks like, especially if we don't get the movement we're supposed to be getting.
Yeah, as soon as they converge on.
Yeah, it's converge. Sometimes it kind of looks like a zone, but most of the teams we played the last 3 or 4 games have played man, and I don't think it's necessarily, the games at Alcoa, the 3 games we played, we had very low scoring. Those are, I know Greenville and Webb are 2 really good defensive teams, so you're probably not going to score as many as you normally do. You may not get your average, but again, like I said last night, turnovers, not making shots, and then obviously missing free throws. In the Greenville game, we missed 17 free throws. I think we missed like 14 in the second half. So. But there's, as far as the scouting, honestly, this day and time with Huddle, the film is available. Like I got a text just walking in here, a coach wanting to film on Central. It's just, coaches can get film pretty easy nowadays. It wasn't that way 5 or 6 years ago. You'd have to go meet somebody and swap a DVD out or a VHS. But yeah, honestly, how many games we played? I think we're 9-3. We've got 12 games in. I was just looking a little bit, Central's 2-2. They played 4. Our girls have only played 6. So I think, in the circumstances, having the games, and it was, I had to make a decision. Do we want to go play 3 games after being quarantined for 10 days, knowing you're not going to get any practice? And the answer is yes, just because our guys need to play. We have an opportunity to play good teams. That's how you get better. That's how you learn. And I think that adversity, David, I think that'll help us. I think teams that have some wounds and teams that have some struggles and some adversity, I think that ends up helping you later in the year.
Jonathan and Jeremy said last night, and when I was asking him about what it was like without you and playing for your dad, state championship coach, he said it had nothing to do. The way we played had absolutely nothing to do with Coach Green not being there. Whoever was coaching us, it was all on us.
Yeah.
we didn't play well. We didn't, and that's what. And I know as a coach, you want to hear that because
yeah, and they're probably reiterating what I told them when I got back. I mean, anybody can make excuses. We talk about some area. Sometimes you kind of have a dialogue after a game. You talk about the game. Sometimes you may feel like you're making an excuse. I've never been an excuse guy. But that's one of the things I told them. Look, we can make excuses all day long, because the head coach ain't there, because you didn't practice for 10 days, or, you hadn't shot, or, somebody's still sick. I mean, every team can line up excuses, but the bottom line is that has nothing to do with when you're tipping up, giving great effort, communicating, playing as a team. Those are things that don't really have anything to do with, practice, or this is just things you should be doing anyway. So I think that's what Jeremy meant, and that's the case. And I told him I don't have to be there. I mean, you guys should be able to go to a game without a coach standing over there, being a little bit sarcastic, without a coach standing over there, and play how we're supposed to play. We play to a standard regardless of who's sitting at the head coach or not. I mean, just based on our culture and our identity and our core values. I mean, that's something that it's good to hear our players reiterate, because I think it's true.
besides the free throws they missed, as you saw those, you played pretty well in the Alcoa ball game. In the other two ball games, where did you see that it disappointed you most?
I think turnovers would probably be the area, and we had some last night. In the Greenville game, we had 15 turnovers in the first half, and we typically, I don't have the stat sheet in front of me, but we don't average that many for an entire game. And we had 7 or 8 straight turnovers. I mean, it's hard to beat anybody. It's like in football. You can imagine turning the ball over 4 or 5 times, probably going to lose, regardless of who the opponent is. So it's really no different in basketball. I think that's the biggest thing. Teams are putting a lot of attention on Millway. I think if you go to those Alcoa games when we didn't score a lot of points, the teams were shooting high percentage. I think it goes back to defensive end. If you're not getting stops, it's hard to run and get out in transition. Press, really wasn't a factor, and some of those teams are harder to press because they got multiple guards that can handle and pass it. So there's a lot of factors there, but I think offensively, turnovers, making easy plays, and making free throws and open shots are probably the biggest areas to improve.
Your rotation has changed a little bit since those first ball games. You've also had illness. You've had injury. Jeremy is not 100%. You can see that, but obviously he looked better last night than he did in the last 2 ball games. He looked pretty good in the Alcoa ball game, but I think going up for that dunk maybe kind of set him back a little bit. He looked like he wasn't quite himself in those last 2 ball games. But you've kind of changed the rotation, I guess, trying to get a feel of who's the best guys out there and one's practicing the hardest.
Right. Yeah, and our guys know. I mean, the minutes are earned. We had practice today, and I think the couple practices before we played Central, I thought, just to cover, as examples, I thought Flip Thompson had 2 really good days of practice. He got more minutes against Central. And I think that's just one example. Stafford Shanklin, who's had a really good year for us at this point, is not starting anymore, mainly because on the defensive end he's making too many mistakes there. But still had 13 last night. Still rebound the ball, but he's got to improve defensively. So it can change. And I told him going into the year. To me, playing with an edge is part of being a good player. It's part of being a good team is playing with an edge. And sometimes you can get complacent, and if they know that hey, coach may sit me out or somebody may start in my place, it kind of keeps that edge there. I guess is the best way to explain it. So it could change. Some guys earned some minutes today in practice, some guys lost some minutes, and it's nothing personal. That's just kind of how the world turns. And they know if they practice, and that's one thing about me that I'm not perfect, make a lot of mistakes as coaching, but I think most of our players understand that everything's earned. I don't play politics, don't care about what you did yesterday. It's all about production, and I'm going to play the guys that feel it's going to get it done.
Coach, you're 4-0 in the district, which is pretty good right now, looking at the standings. And I know it's way too early to talk about the standings, but I guess you've got to. Who knows what's going to happen if you're going to even get all your ball games. You might end up having to play each team one time. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen down the line. So it's good to start strong. And that Central game was a very big, strong, game to get over the hump, especially since it was on the road. Yeah,
no doubt. And I think they're a team that are 2-1 going in. I think they'll finish in the top of our league for sure. Toward the top, there's several other teams I feel like that could be up there. Anderson County, Clinton. Carnes is always a team that can scare you late, but
Halls
yeah.
must have had a good game last
Yeah,
night.
they beat Clinton last
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
I mean, they're a ton better. They've made a bunch of improvements since last year. So, there's some quality teams. I think there's some teams that are. I think there's a lot. Anybody can beat anybody. I think most coaches would say that. But yeah, get off a good start. I mean, every district game we play, we talk about we're playing for a championship. Every time you tip it up in a league game, and especially this year, I think we'll get all the games in. It's the uncertainty is, if teams get quarantined, that's stuff you don't have control over, which is frustrating. But I'm glad we've got 4 games in at this point, and hopefully we can get them all in.
Coach, I've done a lot of interviews over the years, talked to a lot of coaches, and typically they say that they would rather be on the practice floor. Players obviously want to play. Coach Taylor said something interesting. She said, typically their Christmas time is their bonding time as a team, where they try to get their most chemistry. And she says, we didn't get to have that. And she says, honestly, right now, I think to be a better team, we've got to play together. And she said, we've got 4 games next week. We've got, 3 games this week. It's almost better, even though we're way behind in things we want to do, to play. Yeah. What's your thoughts there?
No, I would agree with that. I think, one of the biggest frustrations this season has been losing the Arby's Classic, as you know, that tournament. I mean, a couple things there. You lose the opportunity to play some out-of-state, really good quality teams. You in front of really good crowds, which would simulate a sectional game or whatever, state tournament game or whatever. Then the opportunity, it's really one of the few times in a year where you like she said, stay at a hotel and guys get time to spend some time together off the floor. Not that they don't, but after practice they all go home, and it's a Christmas term, you stay together. So I think for sure that's part of it, and I think you can practice all day long, but you're going to learn the most about your team during games. It's just when the lights come on. Who's going to do what, or it's just you learn more from playing, and that's why I like playing good teams. You learn more from playing games than you do in practice any day. So even though it's frustrating because you're behind, that's one of the reasons we went and played after Christmas without any practice, because we needed that. Can be our practice regardless of the outcome. So
you got a game tomorrow at Campbell County, makeup ball game. Then you have a tough one, I think, Friday against Anderson County. I know they had a tough game last night against Fulton, and then next week. I mean, you don't play the 4 like the girls do, I believe. I believe you have Powell, and I believe I know Cleveland's in there. I think Central again.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty tough little stretch of time that you're going to be.
Yeah, no doubt. And having obviously going to Campbell County, which we mentioned last night, it's always it'd be probably a little bit different there with the restrictions, but it's always a tough place to play. Then obviously I think Anderson County's having a really good year. I think they've only lost 2 games, both been to Fulton in close games, and I think they could have won both those games. So they've got a lot of experience and some good kids coming that were played last year that played well. So, but yeah, I mean, really, I don't know how most coaches are, but at this point we're probably spending more time on us right now than we are. I mean, we scout opponents, watch tape, do all those things, but. Right now we've got so many things we need to clean up and get better at. We're focused mainly on, getting some of our stuff cleaned up, which will make us play better regardless of who we're playing in the game.
I had the opportunity to speak to Coach Mullins last night, the athletic director, and we were talking about the restrictions that are going to be in place at our place starting Friday with the limitations on family members. What have they said about Campbell County tomorrow?
Yeah, if you don't mind me reading this, I've just got this. So the restrictions are, and that's one thing. As a coach, you forget that we've got all these restrictions, and you got to find out, well, is this different than going to Central? And what are the restrictions? You got to relay it to all the parents. I mean, It puts a little bit more work on you. All tickets will be sold at the gate. Only immediate family, up to 4 tickets will be allowed in the game. Masks required for all spectators, temperature checks, TBLSWA passes are accepted, media, newspaper, rows marked with yellow tape or the left vacant to ensure for social distancing. So, locker rooms I think they're allowing locker rooms where Knox County's not. So, I mean, but that's the main thing. So, I like Alcoa, they bought their tickets online. So, Campbell County will be at the gate. I think at our place, the tickets will be sold at the gate. So, that's frustrating because it can change when we go to, I'm trying to think where somebody else we go, but that really Campbell County, Anderson County may be different, a little different than Knox County. So you got 3 areas that could be a little bit different.
obviously it is a road game, and obviously once you get up there, you know, they might say something else to you. I'd hate for somebody to drive up there and not be able to get in.
Well, the frustrating part, you know, I had a parent text me tonight, ask me, you know, hey, my wife's not going. I know it's limited to 4, but my dad's in town, which is be a granddad. He's not an immediate family member, but his wife and his daughter's not going, so they're, you know, so surely he can get in the game, but I'm not going to be there at the gate, to control it. So you hate to say, yeah, come on up, and then they get there and won't let. I mean, it's like everything else. I guess since last spring, it's just kind of a mess. But you know, it is what it is, and we've got to deal with it. And it's frustrating. The good thing about our games is they are live streamed, and they can watch it even if they're not there in person.
And we're going to start doing the home games too, and that was you talk about frustrating, Coach. All the way since this began in football season, started with me. I mean, we've got an elderly group that come to most of the ball games, and they haven't been able to come to watch any of them. And I guess TWSAA made the ruling, and it kind of forced the school system actually to not forced really. They probably know that it was the best thing to do. So we're going to start streaming the home games, starting with the Anderson County game on Friday, which is going to allow our fan base. And I've had a lot of people who are season ticket holders who bought their season tickets but don't care. I mean, they're just happy to help the program financially,
right.
Obviously, but you know, they're happy to see the games. And I know you missing a lot of people in the gym, but that's just the way it's going to be this year.
You know, it's just, Tennessee's playing right now. I think they're playing Arkansas. There's probably 4,000 people in Thompson-Boling Arena. It's 23,000. And it's just like it's just different. You know, there's not much of a, Arkansas is not don't have that. Tennessee doesn't have that home court advantage that you normally would have.
Right.
It's a little different in high school, but last night at Central, had a little bit of a summer league game type feel. Nobody's there, got one side of the bleachers, nobody's sitting in them, There's nobody behind you. So it's definitely different. Everybody's having to deal with it. I hate it for the kids. Some of my best memories in high school playing was playing in big games with big crowds. Even in college, and I hate it for all the kids. High school, college players. It's just a crazy time, and I feel for them for sure.
Coach, this show isn't about you, but I want to ask you a question. Personally, when you were playing for Tennessee, what was the biggest crowd you played in front of? What your most memorable Tennessee basketball game that you played at Thompson-Boling?
Had to be probably the Kentucky games were the ones that are the most memorable. Obviously, those are rival games. When we played them in '96. They won the national championship that year. I think we held them to like 94 points, and we only lost by like 30. I think that year, one time at home. But those Kentucky games, especially playing at Rupp, that place holds. If you've been there, I mean, it holds 24 plus 25, almost 25,000, I think. Completely packed when you run out. I mean, it's just kind of an overwhelming, really feeling. From a coaching standpoint, when I was with Coach Pearl, we played in the Elite Eight in St. Louis, and there was 56,000 people there.
Wow,
that was pretty neat. We played Ohio State and beat them kind of in the last seconds, and then lost to Michigan State in that game to go to the Final Four. I think it's a Sweet 16 game I was referring to, but yeah, the crowds are a big part of athletics, and as a player, those are some of the ones you remember the most. Those big games with big crowds.
Coach Mullins told me last night that Middle Tennessee State's not accepting fans at all in their facility, and they will be hosting the boys and girls state basketball tournament later on. So
yeah, we probably need to get. Hopefully, TWSAA can come up with some alternative site between now and state tournament, just so we got somewhere to play it.
Coach, let's talk about Campbell County. What do you know about them?
A new coach, and they've had several coaches there the last couple of years. They got some young kids, and the record's not great, but they play hard. They got a couple of good guards, scrappy. Coach does a good job with them. It's one of those, and again, it's a little different since as bad as we played. I've spent more time on us today and the day before than I am on Campbell County, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals where I think when you go on the road, especially up there, you're going to get their best shot, and it's their Super Bowl, and we'll need to play well. I'm looking for guys to play better. I guess that's my biggest thing, but yeah, I mean, we've had. I think in my 11 years here, we've had some interesting games up there. I'm sure all the district teams can say that. It's an interesting place to go. It's a fun place to go.
Coach, I'm not 100% sure, but I think we've got some Mavericks in the house here. So you've got them on Friday, and then next week, as we said before our next show, you've got Powell.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as far as Anderson County, they they've had a good year up to this point. I think their expectations coming in this year were going to be high based on what they had returning. You got several good players. I know it's interesting because I know they'd done the same with us. We'd already started scouting them. Right before when we played Stone on that Tuesday, we were supposed to go to Anderson County.
Right.
So it's funny today. I was looking back. I'd already had some of our edit stuff together for Anderson County, and then I think the game was canceled the day before. So I put that in a file and then I pull it back out. So it's just they'd played Fulton I think shortly before we were supposed to play them, and now they've played Fulton again. So, but they've got a good team. I think they'll be a team that can I think. As far as you're talking about Central being up there, I think you can put them in there for sure, Clinton. But they've got a good team. Coach has always done a good job. They're going to play hard, and they'll play with confidence.
And then Powell on Tuesday.
Yeah, Powell's another team. Again, a lot of these teams not like us have been off. I mean, they just started practicing. Probably got a few practices. And I think the coach at Central said they've practiced 30 times and played 4 games. So a lot of those teams are in that situation. Powell got a few more games in than most. He was the type where he was trying to play whenever he could, regardless of practice or not, no matter who they was missing. So, there's really some of those teams have played such few games. There's still a lot to be learned about them. You're still there's not I guess what they do and who's playing well. So, with Central, with only playing 3 games, you at this some of the times most years they've already played 11 or 12. So. But with Powell's coach does a good job. They'll run motion, 5 out. They've got a couple really good guards. They've got some young kids that are much improved, so that definitely, as always, will be a challenge.
Coach Wallace texted me last week, and he said that he was incredibly jealous of Oak Ridge because we're the only team that got a chance to play during the break. So,
and that's unfortunate. We got the Concord Christian game in, and then luckily was able to get 3 games in right after Christmas, which most teams are not playing, and I think that's definitely big. We would not been able to know what we would need to improve without those 3 games, and we would not have been able to have the practices we've had without that adversity that we faced after Christmas.
Because we have about 30 seconds, just your final comments as we
prepare. Yeah, just tough time. I tell our kids this, just thankful every time we get an opportunity to play. I think, and I mentioned this before, it means a little bit more for us having, the state tournament robbed from you last year, qualifying and not being able to play. So, I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder trying to get as everybody's trying to, giving the kids the opportunity to try to get back there again, which is not easy and will not be easy. It's hard to do. But just a crazy time, and just thankful for every game we get to play, and hopefully I appreciate what you guys do, enable our fans and stuff can watch the games online even though they can't be there. So we appreciate you guys, the work. I know that's not easy and takes a lot of work, and I know I appreciate you, but I know I speak for Oak Ridge and saying thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you, and thanks for coming in on your 1 day off this week.
As Coach said, we don't get many of those, so there's no day off.
It's Coach Aaron Green. We appreciate you watching Off the Glass this week. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Oak Ridge High School Basketball Coaches Show. We appreciate Dylan in the back. Remember Oak Ridge and Campbell County tomorrow. Girls tip off at 6 o'clock. Boys at 7:30. We'll stream it live on Prep Radio on YouTube. Till next week, this is David Clary saying so long, everybody.